Today we review TATES new video, Love and Evil. Is there as a
Hello,
thing?
everybody. So, I want to talk about a very interesting frame of thought, an easy way to view the world and try to understand why certain things happen. Because as humans, we're always searching for meaning, we're searching for understanding, and that is the basis behind most religions, behind a lot of philosophy, all of these things. We're constantly looking for the answer because we have this thing inside of us which makes us very inquisitive. It gives us the ability to love things, ability to love others, the ability to understand. So, we're always looking for the final answer. What's the final solution? And you can spend many years of your life studying Plato and watching all these long and in-depth videos about who controls the world and who does what. And there's certainly merits of truth to all the philosophers, and there's merits of truth to all of the theories of economics and power structure. But there's a very simple overview, which I like to use in terms of understanding the world and why certain people are doing certain things. And it's very simply love and evil. So for that, I'm going to give you this very basic philosophical framework. Because you can read Aristotle, and you can read Plato, and you can read The Art of War, and you can read The 48 Laws of Power, and you can read all these books. You can spend your entire life studying. But truthfully, there's a macro framework that allows you to avoid all of that work, spend that time doing something else, and very simply and easily understand the world. Now, I'm not claiming to be a philosopher. This is just my theory that I've come up with that I'm here to share with you. And it's very simply called love and evil. So I'm going to explain to you how it works now, and hopefully it makes sense. If at any point during this you have any questions, feel free to send them in a super chat. I'm going to be reading out every single super chat and answering every single question. Let's put the aircon on open this, please. So of all the philosophy in the world, of all the different ways, what is philosophy? Philosophy is trying to understand thinking. It's trying to understand why we are the way we are, why we do what we do. Of all the philosophy in the world, the most potent and pertinent and absolutely accurate and true was came up with thousands and thousands of years ago, and you already know it. Many of you may not have read a lot of the Greek philosophers. You may not understand the brutality of economics or war or politics, but I guarantee all of you know this symbol. So the most important thing when it comes to philosophy and understanding the world is an age-old symbol called the yin and the yang. You've all seen it. That's a terrible rendition of it, but this explains the world absolutely. And basically, you have light and dark in equal, opposing amounts. You have a little bit of light in all of the dark, and you have a little bit of dark in all of the light. So to explain, there is something good about all of the bad things that happen to you, and there is something bad about all of the good things that happen to you. And there is going to be good and evil. Sorry, it's going to be good and evil in equal and opposite amounts throughout the world. When I say this, a lot of people understand there's good and bad, but not.
I agree with him on this point. Yeah, he says there's always something bad or something good that happens to you, and vice versa. For instance, at the lower echelons of society, it's bad, it's terrible, you're always worrying about money. Conversely, that situation in and of itself builds you, it shapes you. The various experiences derived as a consequence of that situation makes you better as an individual. Conversely, I scale to a point where I have money, financially stable, can do tons of things for myself. Growth is a byproduct of envy. You lose a lot of friends, family members begin to resent. Your every move is interpreted from the lens of arrogance. So totally I agree with him when he says there's always something bad in every good thing that happens and vice versa.
Think about or understand the fact that every time something bad happens to you, there's a good lesson in it. You become a stronger person. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You learn something. You learn how to protect yourself. You become more grateful for what you have. Even if you lose your arm, you become more grateful for your other arm. There's always something good that happens in the bad. And there's always something bad that happens in the good. You all want to become rich. I don't blame you. I'm very, very rich and I'd hate not to be. But bad things will happen when you get rich. You'll have to be more conscious of your security. You might become more arrogant. You might become more elitist. You might stop caring about people around you. You may believe that there's no luck involved, that perhaps there was no fortune or good providence. You just built it all yourself because you're a fantastic person and you're going to treat poor people badly. So there's always something bad and something good that happens in the inverse. And these exist in equal and opposite amounts. And the reason they exist in equal and opposite amounts is because they create each other. And I like to slightly change the yin and the yang between the light and the dark to love and evil. And it is both love and evil which create one another. You know, one of the most asked questions amongst philosophers and deep thinkers throughout history is, why do people do evil things? Why is there so much evil in the world? This is asked to priests, this is asked to imams who say, if God exists, why is there so much evil? Why do all of these bad things happen? And a whole bunch of answers are given in reply. There's
My response to that question, why do evil happen? Evil is the inverse of good. So for good to exist, even as you exist. The only reason you can tell the difference between a bad check from a good one is because you've experienced it from both sides. So one creates the other, like you said. Also, to bolster up my argument, this world is cohabilitated on evil. In other words, this world has been designed to promote evil than good. I was speaking to a very beautiful mother who has a child, and I said to her child, a 2-year-old, if you and mommy go on a vacation, say you had no cleaners, you had nobody to look after the house, you're coming home to dust, right? And dirt. Exactly. Why don't you come home after that long trip and every single year is sparkling clean? You also know this intuitively. If you walk past a well manicured garden, never for once are you going to think, ah, it happened by some providence, or the garden trimmed itself, raked the bushes along. No, you understand, for any good thing to happen, someone has to make it happen. So this world, the default of this world is evil. I remember the last review I did, I said something like, your default is envy, your default is bad character. Your initial response to the success of another is envy, is jealousy. The fact that you are able to produce something of the inverse was a deliberate recalibration of your mind. It didn't come to you naturally to celebrate people and not have this desire to covet. Else, laws, the Ten Commandments wouldn't be put in place.
Various different
So
responds as to why there is
that's
evil in
my
the world.
response.
Perhaps evil is a force in and of itself. Perhaps it's because humans have free will, etc. But my theory is very simple. The reason there is evil is because there is love. For the very same reason, the reason there is light is because there is dark. Because when you love something, you are automatically attacking its inverse, which by definition will be seen as evil for the people who believe in that inverse. Let me give you a very simple example. If I love my country, when people try to invade my country, I'm going to kill them. If women and children try to come to my country uninvited, I will repel them. Now that is evil, right? To shoot and kill and murder, to reject women and children who are only coming to try and find food and shelter. I'm an evil person. What kind of bad person would turn those people away or, even worse, murder them? Well, it's someone who loves his country. I can't love my country without committing evil acts. And depending on which side of the fence you sit on, depends on whether you see me as a person who is patriotic and full of love or a person who is evil and full of hate. And that is why there's always going to be endless conflict in the world. That's why there's going to be endless, never-ending death and destruction, because humans have the capacity to love. We, as animals, have the capacity to love, not just each other, but we can love places, we can love things, we can love experiences, we can love certain emotions, we can love capabilities. By having the capability to love, we instantly create a shadow of endless evil. So when you sit and you analyze this, well then, simply, you could look at the yin and yang as love and evil, or you could look at it as one thing, one force. Love and evil are the same thing. They're the same because you can't do one without creating the other. And this is something that people who are in charge of the world understand very well. Because by doing a certain action, they know they will create an inverse. So let me give you an example. Let's imagine there was a country which was currently committing a genocide. But why are they committing the genocide so publicly? Because this country, let's say, had complete control and blockade of its enemy for a very long time. Why wouldn't they just make them all infertile by poisoning the food supplies? That would be very easy and nobody would know. Why wouldn't they just poison them slowly? Why wouldn't they just give them all turbo cancer in the medications that they were given? Why wouldn't they just build out a 10-year plan for the population to slowly decrease and eventually just fade away to nothing? There's no reason why they would have to do a big public execution. Why would they be doing this? That doesn't make sense. If the goal is primarily genocide, then the primary objective would be to not get caught. The primary objective would be to commit the genocide without anyone finding out about it so that anybody can talk about it. So if the goal is not genocide, what is the goal? Well, the goal is to be deemed and seen as evil. That is their primary objective. Why use, in this fictional country, why would they use military-grade weaponry on children, which is the height of evil incarnate, unless they wanted the entire world to see them as evil? Well, the answer is simple. By doing evil things, by having the entire world turn on them and seeing them as evil, what does it do to their native population? Their native population will sit there and say, well, everyone hates us now, so I guess we got to stick together. Nobody likes us. In fact, now it's more important than ever. If I'm a judge and you get caught, looking at kids online, child porn, I'm going to help you out because they're all against us anyway. We have to love each other because there's so much evil out there against us. So now we have to love each other. We have to unify. So by deliberately going out into the world and attracting evil, they are generating love in another place. This is what's extremely important for you to understand about the way the world actually works. It would have been very easy for this country to commit a genocide without attracting any evil. But then they wouldn't generate the love they need, the unity they're trying to acquire and enforce inside of their native populations and their global power networks. Because they felt like their power was slipping, perhaps they felt like their certain agents around the world were losing faith in their adherence to the true prophecy and their true loyalties above all of the other loyalties, prophecies, friendships, incentives that they were gaining throughout their power. Let's say you become a powerful, let's say this country is called, bro, I'm going to go straight to jail. I'm going to go straight to jail.
Now, Andrew better not say what I think he's about to say. Else, bro is going back, bro is going straight back to jail.
This country, let's say these people are out there and they have very influential positions in other countries. Well, they're going to over time grow fond of the other country they hold power within. So how do you keep them loyal to their base, their home nation, when they have a fantastic life in another nation? You need to make them feel love for that home nation and affinity for their people. And you do that by making the world hate them. This may be going over a lot of your heads, but this is extremely important for you to understand because this is the basic premise that game theoricians think on. They attack me and call me evil, which makes people love me more because I'm seen as a freedom fighter. Clowns and amateurs don't understand that your only weapon against people truly is apathy and outperformance. You need to outperform them and ignore them. If I break up with a woman, I know she's poor. You're poor compared to me forever. I win, and you don't exist anymore. I don't hate you. Because if I hate you, you're going to love yourself. If I hate you, you're going to think, he hates me. That means he thinks about me. I'm so powerful. Look, I can make Andrew Tate think about me. I am cool. I love myself. Well, you know what? I don't think about you at all. I don't give a fuck about you. The second you're blocked, you're not in my brain. And you're sitting at home wondering if I'm thinking about you, and the answer is no. That's it. Apathy and outperformance are your weapons. Projecting evil in any direction creates love in another. And this is something else we need to consider. When people, hippies, all the religions, everyone says, love is the answer. Well, yes, love is the answer. You're right. But if you're projecting evil, you're creating love somewhere else. Let me give you a very simple example. Let's change it to something else. Currently, there's a lot of conversations around race. There's conversations around the fact that white people are losing their countries in real time. I, as a brown man, agree with them and see this.
This guy is a very sweet talker. In fact, I've got lost in listening to his conversation, forgetting I'm supposed to react. So I'm basically agreeing with his point at the expense of responding to his point. But one thing I'll keep true, one thing I'll make clear is if there's any point I agree, I'm going to say why I agree with the point as well as disagree with the point.
Happening, and I know this is true, right? I have come to the aid of and tried to help white people understand why this is happening. And many of them have turned on me, called me names, and insulted me, which is fine. There's no problem with that. I have no problem. But let's look at a very simple, basic example. To have white children, you need white women to have white kids. So let me ask you something. Do white women love their race? Or do they love power and status and money? Because
what bro is stating is fact. Anytime you dislike someone, it's most likely there's a trait in which you envy, or there's a trait you actually dislike. So when you dislike someone, it's like a fat guy disliking a gym bro. It's not necessarily because of his behavior, but there is something in him, his actions, his choices holds a mirror inadvertently to that of the fat guy. As a consequence, animosity grows. But for the sake of time, we are going to go through this in a later video. There are other podcasts we need to jump on now. So as always, my friend, it's a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.